Hello and welcome. It's Monday. Monday Market 15, the 15-minute show that takes roughly about 30 minutes or so. Rob and Ross, RCO Network, coming at you live here at Inside Production Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. Brought to you with my wonderfully beautiful co-host. Please welcome Miss Great American Title, Ashley Miller.
Hello, everyone. Thank you
Everybody's
for
so cheery.
coming back and watching us.
Everybody's so happy to see you. Everybody in the audience here is just so happy to see you. Look at that. There you go.
Amazing.
It's every week. It's
We
just
get to create our own audience.
we get to create our own audience.
We do.
So every Monday we bring you information about the Phoenix housing market, things that are happening, things that are going on, relatively speaking, with your home. In Maricopa County, Phoenix, Arizona is where we tend to focus. So if you have any comments or questions, pick those in the comment section below. If you like us here on YouTube, hit those like buttons and subscribe. Why not watch us every week? Because what else are you doing? What else are you doing? I'm not doing. I might as well just subscribe to myself. If you're on Facebook or Twitch or any of the other platforms, just give us a little love. We'd like that too.
Purple hearts. I love them.
Ashley loves her purple heart. So
I do.
if you watch the show and you're an adamant Monday Market 15 watcher, drop in that purple heart. She just loves those purple hearts.
Thank you. I know. Speaking of, I didn't even log into Facebook to even see
Oh
what's
God,
happening.
she's failing already.
Okay.
It is Monday. You're forgiven, so it's okay.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Miller, what is on the news this week? It's just crazy. It's been kind of a weird last week. I think people have logged in, and if you're renting, there's kind of some news that you want to share, right?
Yeah, one of the most recent articles that actually you shared with me, Robert shared with me, is
I do that.
the ASU model prediction. And they're predicting currently right now that 20% of the 80,000 people that are currently renting are possibly going to be evicted. That means that's 16,000 people who could potentially be, quote unquote, homeless in Arizona.
Correct.
Now, out of that, do we think that it's going to be 20%? It could. I mean, they're truly believing in 3% for sure. 3% is going to happen too, but the max could be about 20%. Again, that's just a prediction.
Yeah, and I mean, with the circumstances that happened last year and, people that lost their jobs and whatever happened, we're not here to kind of fearmonger or anything like that. It is a reality that we're kind of facing and looking into. And I think we come from a place where we want to help out and extend and provide information and knowledge of resources to go to, and just acknowledge that, if you're in a good situation where you don't have to worry about that, there are people out there that are in those situations where they do have to worry about those things,
Yeah, I mean, one of the suggestions for anybody who may be listening or has a friend or family member that is going through this, there was a number that I had looked up. It was if you are potentially facing eviction and with no place to go, you can dial 211 on your phone, and it'll actually connect you with somebody that can try to find different programs to help you place you. I'm not exactly sure the information they give you, but that is their goal, is to try to place you so you don't become homeless in Arizona.
Yeah, I think I got that up there. How can I help? 211 Arizona.
Yeah.
You just go to the website and log in and put your information in there. And hopefully, if you're in that particularly tight spot, our heart goes out to you. And I wish we could help out a little bit more other than, just provide you a resource to go to.
No, absolutely. And, I found this very interesting as we were talking about what is happening with the rental market and people who are unemployed and they can't find work. Our unemployment rate is still at 6.8%. Yet, and this might sound really bratty of me, everywhere I go, I see signs, we're hiring. Even one of my good friends is in construction, and he actually called me the other day and said, hey, can your boys and some of their friends come out and help demo and just throw, particles and stuff into a huge trash can? I mean, it's simply like it's ripping off drywall and throwing it in there, and they're willing to pay these kids 14, 15, 16-year-old age range, $15 to $20 an hour. And he's desperate to find people. So it confuses me that we're still at 6.8% at our unemployment rate. And then what's even more unbelievable, I'm looking at my notes right here.
Yeah.
What is it? It was like 52% of people are not working right now. So I don't know what age range that includes.
Yeah, I think that was on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. It's a
Yeah.
federal. If you go to the website there, let me go back to that. If you
I
go
don't know
to
if it's 18 or under or 16 and under, because I think, well, in Arizona, you can start working at 14. So it doesn't clarify if it's for the working age in Arizona, it's starting at 14, 16, or 18. And I'm sure it doesn't take into account the stay-at-home moms and all of those situations. But I thought that was very intriguing that 50-something%.
I think I could pull those up right here.
Oh, yeah, scroll down.
So the labor force, employment, labor force, somewhere around here.
Wait, hold on, slow down.
Employment population ratio. So right here is the number you're referring to. So relatively just above 56%. I don't know if that includes total population. That seems like a really low
That's
number.
what I was wondering.
But obviously something we have to look into further. So we bring information, but we bring it straight from the source. So interpretations and what that means is really up to you.
Well, and I know that recently, I mean, we've all been hearing about July 31st. You know, homes they're no longer going to do what you would call the eviction moratorium. So what is happening? I know for a fact, because you shared it with me, that FHA is going to extend that. So if you do have an FHA loan and you are in a situation as this, you have till September 30th at this point. So
that's only FHA-backed loans, though.
Right, FHA-backed loans. So that excludes our VAs, our conventionals, whatever the other ones that are out there.
Yeah, so basically last week the House failed to pass any legislation for the forbearance and moratoriums to continue past July 31st for our evictions. And so I don't know if it was a presidential order or through the Housing and Urban Development that they extended this eviction ban to FHA-backed homes. You know, FHA tends to be a higher risk loan. You know,
they know what they're getting themselves into.
Some people coin it the first-time home buyers program,
sure,
but it's really just an FHA. It's a high risk because you have a lower credit score. You probably never bought a home before. You know, there's other things there too. So people that have rented their house out on an FHA loan, this is who they're supporting because that's all they really have the ability to support because they weren't able to pass legislation as of last week. Yeah. So as of now, the House and the Senate are on recess for 6 weeks. So we won't even hear anything or hear any kind of sense of legislation until after that 6-week period of them being off. So if you're wanting your congressman or person to change any legislation, please reach out to them individually. That's Cinema and the astronaut.
Right. Oh my goodness.
What's his name? I forgot. But anyway, we're here. So a lot of things happening there. I think there's a lot of fear and concern regarding evictions and kind of way things are going. And you pointed out earlier, the economy really hasn't picked up. Our local economy has not at all. I'm going to go back to that.
Well, I mean, I can't even get an Uber these days.
What? Ugh. You can't just call me.
I know, right?
You need a ride where? No, I mean, places, people like Uber aren't even doing that too. I don't know if they're still, if anybody can fill in or provide information, are people still suffering? Are people still claiming unemployment? Because people aren't, as far as I know, going back to work in aggregate numbers or large scale numbers.
Yeah, I am very intrigued because there really isn't much data on, when you go to a restaurant, the restaurant's pretty much empty, but there's a 20-minute wait because they don't have enough servers to show up. I can't get an Uber. I could use so many oh my gosh.
Instances?
Instances.
She hasn't had her coffee today.
Discount tire by my house.
Oh boy.
It was like a Jiffy Lube. I mean, they're constantly having, we hire.
Yeah.
But my fear is that we're giving them unemployment cash that is more than what they're going to make working at these facilities or restaurants or wherever the case may be.
Well, and part of it too is competition. So you have competing companies like, hey, I took a year off, or maybe not took a year off, but I've been out of the job force for a while. I feel like I deserve more. I feel like I deserve a higher wage. And if I don't know, the restaurant over here is giving $15 an hour, but yet Lowe's is giving me $17 an hour. Why don't I pick and choose which company I go to? And, hey, if they're offering more incentives and benefits, why don't I go there? Or maybe not. I don't know. I don't get the disconnect between people not being motivated to go back to work. I mean, the largest segment of our economy here was all leisure and entertainment.
Right.
And so in aggregate, those are all the lower kind of scale jobs. I mean, if you're a server, you're only getting paid half a minimum wage because the other half comes from tips. And
you better
know,
be a damn good server.
Yeah,
servers make good money.
Well, yeah.
Bartenders, servers?
And if it's cash, it's not reported. So I mean, I was a server once too. I only reported what I had to, if it was especially it was cash. But I don't understand the motivation. I don't know what those factors are because, I mean, obviously I work every day. So I don't know what could be the things that are keeping people from searching that out or seeking
I know our
employment.
younger generation is not as motivated. I don't know if it's because we did not educate them. We didn't create that sense of worth ethic, I guess you could say. I mean, I work all the time.
When I was your age, I worked.
I walked to school uphill both ways.
I walked through the snow. The Arizona snow is very heavy.
Well, now a lot of our millennials are relying on what we would call the baby boomers to help them with their down payments for their homes.
So, so you brought that up. That's so coincidental. I found an article.
Weird. We definitely need to. So anybody who has a teenager right now, especially in high school, I would like to know, how are you, this is a question, I have a bunch of questions today. How are you educating your children financially to prep them for whether it's to buy, I mean, honestly, to buy their car, or are you buying it for them, but really to buy their home and understand what's happening in our economy?
Do you remember like taking the kids out to the soccer game as opposed to when you were playing like childhood soccer or whatever?
Play softball.
Whatever sport you want to throw in there. Back when I was growing up, it's like, hey, you either sucked or you were really good. And if you're really good, you got to play. If you really sucked, you got to bench a lot of time.
Everyone gets a chance.
Yeah, now everybody kind of gets a chance. And I don't know if that cultural mentality is kind of shifted into just a normative and just the idea of like, oh, well, like everything's like, shall I say communism? Is that too far? But everybody gets a chance. Everybody gets equal opportunity. Everybody gets their own time. Hey, we all share. Everybody wins. Everybody gets a trophy.
That is what we are doing to everyone right now.
Yeah,
and it's asinine, honestly. I mean, not to sound bratty.
Ashley does have an opinion about this.
I do, because I find it so crazy that we have all these people that are about to be evicted, and we have a high unemployment rate. But look around at how many businesses are hiring. Sometimes we have to hit the ground and fall and take a lesser per hour just to get ourselves back and going. Because if you're going to continue to live on unemployment, how are you going to excel and grow your future? How are you going to buy your house? Or do you not care? I don't know. Would you like to live out of your car? I have no idea. I'm trying to understand this.
But think of the deeper cultural context. So when we're growing up, what are we taught in school? To sit down, shut up, and listen to the teacher. Be compliant. When we grow up, you go to work, sit down, shut up, do your work, be compliant, and so we're really not told or even emphasized. Like there's really like the creative sports and like music are really just diminished in school. Those extracurricular activities are just really kind of like, well, the basics are math and English and science, but there's no sense of creativity. And so when you get to an entrepreneurial role or be motivated outside of that compliance, is like, well, I don't know who I am outside of that because I'm so used to, at age 5, told to sit down, shut up, and listen to the authoritative figure.
This conversation with my 20-year-old brother, who's almost 21, who lives with me, and he has for 3 months now. He came from Virginia and moved out here and he's living in my house. And we had actually a very great conversation. He said, I just need somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like at 21, I've been living by myself since I was 18, and I thought that was so intriguing. Like, you just need somebody to tell you what to do. Me, I don't want anybody to tell me what to do, and I dare you to tell me what to do. So it's just a different mentality.
Well, it's that whole philosophical thing about The Matrix, right? That's why The Matrix was such a big movie at the time, because we're all plugged into this society. We're all told to sit down, shut up, and listen to the authority. Watch TV, drown yourself out, buy crap that you don't need, and continue to buy crap because it helps build an economy. But then you take that away. I'm like, there's only so many things on Amazon that you can buy in like let's say an environment like a year ago. And then that's it. There's no motivation. It's like, well, hey, the government's going to take care of me, and they're going to give me money, and they're going to give me benefits. I mean, I'm not saying that's everyone either. That's just probably a very small segment of our culture. But the bigger thing to really recognize is that, are we teaching the wrong thing to our kids? Are we teaching the wrong things to our kids?
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, it is. I was really shocked that in that article that you had brought up, that a gal who was 36 years old. And that's not, I guess it's still considered a millennial. I don't know. We're still trying to figure out the age for millennials. They say it's like 82, which would consider me a millennial, but I can guarantee you I am far from it. So I don't know. I don't know what the age is. I consider like...
How old are you? You look like you're 20.
39.
You're like...
I'll be 39 in a couple months.
You're like, hey, these young people. I'm like, aren't you freaking 22?
But I couldn't imagine...
Look at this glow she has.
Asking
Wait, hold on.
somebody from...
Let me get a close-up of this.
That it's just
look at this glow.
It just blows my mind. So not to demise anybody that is in that age that might need assistance, and be very thankful and very blessed that you do have a family that can help you, because not all of us have a family that can provide that. However, my biggest concern is the next generation. Are we going to be doing the same thing and constantly having to pick up their pieces? Because that's what we're doing right now.
And we're leveraging off our parents still. I mean, now we're leveraging
off the government and the parents.
Yeah, I mean, so there's so many frustrations, I think, to express, and we're just at where we're at. And there's really, I think we look for those singular answers to decide and figure out, well, that's the reason. And so this is the solution, and there really isn't. It's all kind of intermixed. It's all on top of each other as far as ideology, cultures, and there's no really one answer. And I think government tries to step in and fix that, but they tend to mess things up.
I have a really oh
boy.
Everyone, I'm born and raised in Arizona, but everyone that I meet outside of like my friend group, because they're all my friends from grade school, they're like, oh, you're from Arizona. There's no original Phoenicians out here. And when somebody tells me that they're from Arizona and Phoenician, like, well, I moved here when I was 1. I'm like, it doesn't count. The point is that because there's so many transplants out here, my question of the day is, how many people are looking to move back to their hometown, and why? So if your folks are maybe in Detroit, Michigan, or Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi. Anyway, but can you bring up this? Can you bring up that one article of, we do have affordable housing outside of Arizona. Not that I'm encouraging you to move outside of Arizona, but
she just wants the Californians to go.
No. So I had looked up the top 50 states where you could purchase a home under $250,000.
Is Morristown on here?
No, but Winslow, Arizona is.
Oh,
Standing
dang.
on the corner. Just kidding.
So 50 best places to hold up. 50 best places to live here under $250,000. Coming up to you next year with Ashley Miller.
I thought this was really great, and then out of that article, I have another one in front of me, and hopefully my computer doesn't die before this. Ohio is huge. Their median price is $180,000. I mean, that's crazy cheap. South Carolina, that's where my dad just moved to. That's at $250,000.
Which one are you
This is a
at?
different one.
Oh. We're going off this list.
Well, no, I'm saying out of these, this is the top 50 states, but out of there, I noticed that the top ones is like Kentucky, South Carolina.
But what if you love the Arizona sun?
But if you can't afford the Arizona sun, there are options for people. There are options out there. You just have to visit them. Is a move hard?
I've been to Pensacola.
Hard. I have not.
161,000. That's amazing. It's it's a coastal
Yeah, and what I love about this article is the livability score, the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is a little bit higher there. However, if you do a little bit more recon and you specialize, let's say, in being an electrician, maybe they are searching for electricians out there. So I think if you are in a financial turmoil, or the home-less in Arizona, where that could potentially be the trajectory of your future, start researching the places you can go to. Nobody wants to pick up and move. I understand that. But if you are from another state and you're a transplant out here, start using the internet as a resource. And if you can't afford internet, go to Starbucks and get a water. They don't care. You can steal their internet.
So if you're from California.
No. Well, I mean, actually, this was interesting. that investors buying out in Arizona has dropped by 3%. So we do have,
Actually, I do have that.
some investors that less investors are buying. You want to know why? Because they've realized that they can go to Detroit, Michigan, Dayton, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio.
Well, I think as far as investment goes, the overall, not every segment of the market in Phoenix, but I think majority of the market's been tapped out. So in my personal subdivision, I bought my condo around $80,000 5 years ago, which is amazing. Yeah. They're comping at around just under 200,000. Zillow made some purchases or whatever they did, and they marketed 2 condos in my subdivision at almost 300,000 when they're comping in at 200.
Yeah,
crazy. And so I think when you don't have all these iBuyers and people coming from out of town just throwing out money just to get a home, they've lowered the price on those two models or those 2 homes by nearly 60,000 each.
Well, homes, what did we look up? Homes are staying on the market longer. They're at what, average of 26 days now on the market?
If you insist, then bring up that information.
Yeah, bring that up.
If you insist.
So we do have the potential to stabilize our housing market, but what the challenge is right now is for renters, people who are currently renting. And for anybody who does not have an FHA loan, they unfortunately don't have the luxury of an extension. Yeah. So, in my opinion,
conventional VA buyers,
right?
Yeah. Anybody that has a loan in a house outside of FHA.
I mean, what are their options? They can short sell.
Yeah.
I do not suggest going into foreclosure or going, where your house goes up for auction, because that will ruin your credit.
Well, it ruins your credit, and it affects your ability to not only purchase but to rent
even
too.
To rent. So if you are that person that is getting that phone call from an investor, as much as we don't love investors coming in and changing our market, sometimes we just have to saddle up and let them do it, because it's better off for your financial future to sell to an investor.
Potentially.
Or to short sell a home, or to have Robert sell the home for you. And then, maybe move back to your hometown. I don't know. I'm just trying to find solutions.
She's pushing those Californians back.
I'm just thinking that there are options, but we're so scared right now, and we're listening to the news so much that we feel like we don't have an option.
I mean, that's the scary part, is that I think sometimes the news makes it scarier than it is.
Right.
And it doesn't allow you to really freely think of like the next best decision for yourself.
Yeah, we just have to do some recon. So if you are in a situation where you're in foreclosure or forbearance.
If things aren't looking pretty.
If they're not looking pretty, call your local real estate agent. I mean, they can do, call it, complimentary comps. They can see what's happening in the market, in your area, and give you some options that are better than foreclosing.
And things don't
want to foreclose.
Things are definitely shifting. So if those decisions you're on the fence with any of that stuff, I would say this market is definitely shifting. Again, going from the beginning of the year when you're getting 20, 30 offers on a listing to now getting maybe 2 or 3. A seller only needs 1. But go from like 20 to 30 now to like just a handful is a significant change in this market, and that's real world, that's feet on the ground kind of like observations. Mm-hmm. It is starting to be reflective in the numbers. Again, month supply. Let me pull that up real quick too. Month supply has been creeping up. I keep putting my face.
Well, and I think another challenge.
Month supply is right now it's about 0.7.
And if anybody who is currently on unemployment, I'm not clear on this, and I did not do my recon before I'm about to speak, but I'm not quite sure if you do get foreclosed on and you have to move and you need to rent. Are they allowing to use the unemployment income as income?
On mortgages, I believe so. On rentals, it's a case by case.
Up to,
I think property, just general property management, like apartment complexes, I do think so. But I guess it really depends on how it affected your credit. If you've had to take out loans, if you've had to, bite the bullet and not make payments on stuff, that's probably affecting your credit score. Right. So there's so many factors that go into it, and I think unemployment case by case is different from a landlord to like in a property apartment complex to somebody who's working in property management. It all varies. There's really no set guidelines. They're all kind of somewhat individual, For the most part, if you're renting, most agents are really hesitant to take anybody under 600 credit score.
Right, yeah.
You have to have at least 1/3, or your income has to be at least
1/3 of your rent.
The rental rate has to be 1/3 of your gross income.
And then you have to have your down payment, like your first and
Correct.
last month. So
there's so many factors.
You're right. There are a lot of factors. So I'm curious if anybody that is in this type of situation, how they're feeling, what they're thinking. Are they just riding the wave? Are they planning for the future? Are they taking the unemployment and saving it? Are they are people who are going through foreclosure, do they have a plan? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, it'd be good to get some feedback regarding your situation. I mean, you don't have to necessarily tell us everything, but just to kind of give us some ideas of what's happening out there. I think it's good to see. I don't really come across the rental market. I do help people with rentals to get into a place. I don't necessarily see the tail end of that. When it comes to purchasing and selling homes, I do see majority of that if they're in a situation or if they're facing eviction or whatever situation, short sale. I do see some of that, but as far as renting, I don't see the back end of that too often.
What is your opinion on people who are currently renting that could potentially be facing eviction? What do you think their future options are for purchasing? Because I know there's down payment assistance programs, which are meant for people who are in a certain income range, and they're a little bit more lenient on, like you said, like your debt to income, like Robert was talking about before, like 1/3 of. With down payment assistance program, they're about 46, so it's almost 50%, which is not bad. I'm curious to see.
It's hard to say because banks aren't lending out mortgages. 60% of our closed transactions, as far as like house loans, are coming from brokers and lenders outside of banks. So banks are really hesitant. They're very cash heavy. So a lot of these stimmies and the money that people have been saving, they get penalized for the more money they have in the bank because it becomes a liability for them.
Right.
So as far as like who knows, it's hard to determine what's going to happen in the future. And are banks going to be more restrictive in their guidelines on who they lend to? And again, these mortgage brokers don't follow the same guidelines as banks do.
No, they don't.
So you may be pre-qualified. You may not be pre-qualified at a bank, but you may be pre-qualified with an outside mortgage broker or mortgage lender.
Or even like a hard money lender, which
hard
interest rates are really high. I mean, right now our interest rates they're circling around 2.5.
Well, this is for well-qualified people. Hold on. Okay. This is for well-qualified people.
But that's my point. So here it is now. This would be, about 400 with 5% down in that credit range. You could get somewhere between 5.5 and, 5.5, 2.5 and 2 3/4. But there are options to use hard money. There are, but you're going to be looking around 8 to 10%, and they're going to require a little bit more down. So potentially, this is just something I'm throwing out there. If you're a two-family home, you could potentially sell one of your vehicles, figure it out, because if one of you is not working, there's options out there. I just don't think that we are providing this type of information online because, like you said, the news only wants to either scare us or tell us what they think we want to hear or what they want us to hear. But there are many other options out there. You just have to think outside of the box.
Yeah, and go to somebody who trust, come to us, or just, again, a friend that has a little bit more knowledge in these areas would be beneficial. And I think the hardest part, the biggest pill to swallow is to admit that you're in that situation, you know what I mean? And I know it's been that way for me too. When I was going through my divorce and everything else, that was the hardest thing to admit is like all the crap I was going through.
Failure.
Yeah, you feel like a complete failure and you don't want to admit it, but then it's like it's better to admit that you're failing in a certain area in life than to have to undergo and face the firing squad later, or whatever, and have to admit later like, oh, we lost the house, when it could have been prevented in some capacity, or you could have walked away with some equity.
Told you back in, what year was it, 2007, I foreclosed on my family home that I bought. Yeah. That was a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. But my biggest problem was I didn't ask anybody for help. And if I only knew then what I know now. However, sometimes we really have to fall hard to understand that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be. So many of us are in vulnerable situations. And, here I am over a decade later, and I own a home again with the boys and I,
and if people knew you personally, they would know the truth of that, the significant truth of that.
Right. I mean, it's a big deal, but the biggest factor here is we are so fearful in America, or even in Arizona, to admit that we financially cannot do something on our own, except for our teenagers, because they have no sense of money at all.
Are you teaching your kids how to manage their money?
Oh, yeah.
Are you teaching your millennial children?
You guys, we already talked about this before. Yeah. They go on Nextdoor, type in like, hey, teenager looking for a job. Sometimes they get paid like $20 an hour to go do yard work, to go do things. So for all of this to be, the unemployment rates and all of this, I'm having a really hard time understanding why our unemployment is so high. And it's the motivation and the lack of the fear, the lack of wanting to be vulnerable and admit that you can't afford what you're doing, and it's okay. And
maybe there's a certain segment of people out there that think the government will come in and save them. I don't know. I don't know. We're not taught in school how to manage our money, first of all. I've had to pull back on some of my expenses because I'm concerned about the next 6 months. Yeah. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Before we end the show today, I did want to re-hit those websites one more time. It's for 211. Yes. So do you want to explain that one more time?
211. If you are in any sort of distress as a renter financially, and you could potentially be on the verge of being evicted, you can call this number and they will help connect you with proper resources. Yep. I don't know exactly what those resources are, because I think that there are many different options. Just pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah, and obviously if you're watching us here on Facebook, you may be on your phone. If you don't have internet, if things are really tight, there's always a library that you can go to, and 201arizona.org is a good resource for that. Also, too, if you head over to Arizona Department of Housing, you can click on County Maricopa. There are some resources also available there too. I didn't click on it. But homeless assistance through the Crisis Response Network. But as we come to the end of the show, Miss, yes. Is there any takeaways from today? Is there anything we want to share just to kind of wrap things up, Miss?
I think our takeaway always is, at the end of almost all of our shows, is doing the recon, doing a little bit more research, finding out what your options are, and reaching out to your sphere to help guide you through it, and to reach out to your local real estate agent to get the real news. Robert always has the real news.
I always got something to say. I don't know if I have news. But.
Well, again, that real estate agents have access to is not what our public has access to.
Yeah, and I would even take it a little bit further and say reach out to a couple agents or a couple people, because there are some people that don't invest the amount of time to do the research and understand some of the, not only the economics of housing, but also the housing itself. There is a difference between understanding the market versus understanding the economy, which way things are going, and it's a lot of agents are just very strictly uniform on understanding the purchase contract or whatever. So if something doesn't sound right, reach out to a couple different sources of information. Be knowledgeable. Do your due diligence.
Due diligence.
So as we're wrapping up today, thank you, Ms. Miller.
Thank you.
Great American Title is a wonderful title company to connect with. It has definitely been a service to me in the past. So I appreciate your time, Miss.
Appreciate you.
Oh, hello. So we'll be coming back here, guys, next week on Monday Market 15 with Ashley Miller, me, Robert Morales, RCO Network.
We're out.
We'll catch you guys next week.